As soon as the 2021 redesign of the iMac came out, in addition to sparking a lot of controversy, it immediately had people wondering, what if the same thing happens with the MacBook Air? Wouldn't that be fun? Well, it seems like that might not be a far-fetched assumption. We've got rumors coming from Jon Prosser saying that that's exactly what's going to happen. So let's talk about what this hypothetical 2021 or 2022 MacBook Air could look like. So is Apple being fun or being foolish? That's kind of the big question here, and I think, personally, that bringing back some colors is long overdue. It has been so long since we've just been able to have a little bit of fun. Apple products have been very austere, especially the Mac, for a very long time. If you think back to the original iMac in 1998 and the iBook in 1999, that was peak fun Apple. Steve Jobs was right back at the company, everything was shaking up, and the big thing were these fun, new consumer products that were not pro, they weren't really meant to be powerful, they were just fun, interesting, well-built products. And they were hugely successful. But unfortunately, in the case of both the iMac and the iBook, it only took a couple of years before Apple sort of boringified it. I mean, this was the original iBook, the clamshell, and it is absolutely beautiful. This was the iBook that replaced it. Ooh. Ugh. My God, that's boring. What the hell is that? It's just a white box, right? It was just nowhere near as fun and interesting. But it seems like now, finally, literally 23 years later, Apple's finally bringing some color back. The new iMac has some, I suppose, controversial colors, though I personally think they work. And Prosser is saying that these are going to come to the MacBook Air. Now, when we say these are going to come, the iMacs are two-tone. So which one would be heading over, right? Well, I've been talking with Ian Zelbo, who has been making some absolutely incredible looking renders, and we've actually been working on this idea for a little while now, sort of bringing over the iMac design language, specifically as it pertains to color, to the MacBook Air. So essentially, what we envisioned was take the color of the aluminum stand, the keyboard, and the bezels, and basically copy-paste it over onto the MacBook Air, with a few other minor modifications, but not really changing the design very much. So Ian came up with an absolutely gorgeous render using the blue. This is specifically the pale blue that you would find on the stand and the chin of the new iMac. So this is what it looks like. I think it looks really, really interesting, really fun. Keep in mind, the design of the MacBook has not really changed at all. The only difference is the color scheme. So we've got a white keyboard, white bezels, and the pale blue exterior on the aluminum. Personally, I think it looks phenomenal. So given that this is purely a difference in the anodization of the paint, I think this actually accomplishes quite a bit in refreshing the look of the MacBook Air, because right now I think Apple has a little bit of a problem with the Air and the Pro. The two M1 machines, even though the MacBook Pro is faster because it can supply more power and it has much more thermal capacity, as well as an extra GPU core compared to the base MacBook Air, apart from those minor differences, they are extremely similar machines. So for the MacBook Air to be differentiated, I think it would help to have some more fun options. Now, granted, if there is a problem with the current M1 Air and Pro, it's actually that people would buy the Air instead of the Pro, so I'm not sure that Apple needs to differentiate the Air to boost it, but just to kind of separate those two products a little bit would, I think, be nice, because right now you can only get the MacBook Air in space gray, silver, and gold. The gold is nice. That was the one that I got when I got my M1 MacBook Air, but I could really see myself going for an orange MacBook Air. I think that would look fantastic. Now, before we even get on to more details of this rumor, as well as what would power this MacBook Air, I just want to say, because I know there's going to be like 50 billion comments about the white bezels, okay? Let's get it all out in the open here, folks. I like them, okay? Sue me. I like the white bezels. I like them on the iMac. I like them here on this MacBook Air, even if they didn't get any thinner. And I believe that Ian decided to make them a little bit slimmer, a little bit smaller footprint for the MacBook Air here. But even if it were identical to what we have right now, but with the colors, with the white keyboard and the white bezels, I think it would look really, really sharp. I don't know, what do you guys think? Does this look good or what? Personally, I think it looks amazing, but I'm curious to hear what you think. Let me know in the comments below. I might also put a community poll to see what you guys think about white bezels on a MacBook Air. Also, I know someone is gonna say, no, all you have to do is take the dark, more saturated color and put that on the lid, make the keys black and the bezels black, and then it'll look good. Well, guess what? You're wrong. I'm sorry, you're wrong. So Ian put together some concept images because when he tweeted out this design that he had been working on, it was inundated with an avalanche of people saying that exact thing. So he was like, okay, fine, let's make the keyboard black, the bezels black, and we'll make the color on the back of the lid the more saturated version. And guess what? It looks terrible. It doesn't work. I don't think it makes a lot of sense. I think it would be the lighter color compared to the darker color. And if you need more evidence for that, take a look at the iPad Air and the AirPods Max. That seems like you could get a whole matchy-matchy thing going on, right? You get your green MacBook Air, your green iPad Air, your green AirPods Max. You could get a whole aesthetic going on there. You couldn't do that if the lid was like all dark and the bezels were black. I don't know, it doesn't work. Now, to get a little bit more specific into the meat of this rumor, Jon Prosser said that the same source that gave him really credible information about the iMac and the colors that it was going to have sent him a picture of a prototype blue MacBook Air. So that seems pretty believable, and frankly, it's a pretty easy thing for Apple to change. Adding colors is a very low energy thing compared to making a new enclosure design, and this would most likely be a very, very similar design overall. Prosser's also saying that because the source was a little vague, he assumes that it would have an M2 chip. So here's where I want to clear up a little bit of confusion, because I know that there's been sort of seemingly conflicting reports recently saying, ooh, the new MacBook Pro is going to come out with the 12-core M2, and then now it's saying, oh, well, I would assume the MacBook Air is the M2. I think people are using M2 for two different things. Personally, I think the way that Apple would continue to designate its CPUs would be similar to the way they've been doing it with the iPhones for years, and that would be basically using the number to signify generation and a suffix to signify a tier. So if it's an M1X chip, then that means it's based on A14/M1 cores, but would have more of them. An M2 chip would be based off of A15 or A16 cores and would probably have the same layout as the M1 chip. To do it in a sort of like M1 is 8 cores, M2 is 12 cores, but also newer cores, it does not scale very well, and I think it would get really, really messy. So I don't see Apple doing that. Now, where this gets interesting is that Mark Gurman has been saying that there's going to actually be a redesigned MacBook Air that would come out in the later half of 2021. Now, when we're talking about redesigns, now we've got these color information, I think it's safe to say that those would probably be at the same time. So if we are expecting a MacBook Pro redesign, I would expect that a lot of the new motifs and design language cues would be copied over to the MacBook Air, and specifically in this case, Gurman has been saying it would be thinner and lighter. It would probably also have a slightly smaller footprint with smaller bezels, most likely the same size screen, although it's possible that they could just make the screen a tiny bit bigger, like 13.5 instead of 13.3 inches or something like that. And it would probably get thinner by reducing some of the tapering. That's been a big rumor that we've heard of. Currently, and for the last very, very long time, MacBooks have a slight taper, so they're thicker in the middle than they are on the edges. The rumors are saying that it's going to be a little bit more like an iPad Pro insofar as the back will be flat. The iMac is now like that as well, so I think that's a pretty safe bet. I think that's going to be a really promising product, and it's going to make a lot of people really, really happy. Now, I do also want to say, because I know since we're talking about a new MacBook Air and a new redesign, people are going to say, oh gosh, should I not buy the M1? I don't think we're quite at that point yet. The MacBook Pro rumors have been coming really fast and really heavy, and so those would seem to suggest that that's going to happen somewhat soon. This MacBook Air stuff still seems pretty far out. End of 2021 at the absolute earliest, potentially even midway through 2022. We don't know that there's going to be an M2 chip this year at all. So if you need a MacBook Air right now, buy a MacBook Air right now. That's basically the long and short of it. But needless to say, do not expect this MacBook Air to be announced at WWDC in a month. It's hard to believe, but it is actually exactly a month. I'm filming this on the 7th, so T-minus exactly 1 month to go. If you're excited for WWDC and hopefully getting a new generation of MacBook Pro, make sure to get subscribed and turn on notifications so you don't miss a video. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. What do you think? Do you like it? Do you like the colors? Do you like this concept for a refreshed, mildly redesigned MacBook Air? Personally, I think it's going to be a really, really compelling purchase, but I'm curious to know what you guys think, so let me know in the comments below, and as usual, I'll see you all in the next video.